Wysig mas.
Hallo allemaal wat al hier is.
Alles uit.
Hallo Jack, is lekker om jou te sien. Kan julle my mooi hoor?
Leuk.
Daar's hy.
Dis nog so 5 minuutjies of so. We'll give a few minutes for everyone to get online. Ek sien vir Brenda. Hallo Brenda, hallo Sean.
Hallo Brenda.
Hi Elizabeth. Got Charmaine here as well. Bernadette, Zelda is daar. Karina, daar Zelda. Hallo.
Chandray, goeiemôre.
Môre Lisette, hoe gaan dit? Is jy reg?
Ja, goed en met jou?
Dit gaan baie goed, dankie.
Dit lyk koud hoor as ek daai baadjie van jou so kyk.
Hierdie kamertjie van my is super koud. Dis baie koud. Ons het vanoggend opgestaan in winterweer.
Ja, ons ek is -2 gewees vanoggend 6:00.
Okay, nee, ons het nog nie so koud gekry nie, hoor?
Zelda.
Môre, gaan dit met julle?
Goed, Renal is daarso.
Môre.
Hallo Renal. En hallo vir Karina ook. Gaan goed, dankie.
Dit is so lekker om almal te sien en te hoor.
Ja, dit is lekker, nee? It's not the same, but at least it's there. Hallo Benedict.
Ja.
Hallo Elizabeth. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'll be leaving soon. And then I'll come back again.
Okay, that's not a problem.
Okay. I'm stuck in PNG. How are you?
We are all fine. Thank you, Elizabeth. We are
Oh my
all
goodness.
fine.
It's good to see you.
How's it going with the book? You've published now, and how's the sales going?
It's going slowly, but I'm not really worried. I'm happy.
That's good.
It's nice. It's good milestones.
Okay, yeah, I understand. She published the book, The Preacher's Daughter.
Yes.
Wow.
But I changed the title. I titled it Confessions because that was more appropriate.
Excellent.
Yeah, thank you.
Excuse, ek sien my
Okay, I'm gonna rush back to our clinic meeting and then I will log in again. I mean,
No problem,
an hour.
Elizabeth. Be strong.
Okay.
Talk to
I
you
will
soon.
be.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Hallo Sita. Hallo almal.
Karina.
Hoe gaan dit? Hallo
Everybody's joining, so that's good.
Môre Karina.
Môre. Ag, weet jy wat? Ek mis nou sommer vir bloem en koffie en drukkies en alles.
Ek ook. Ek het vanoggend opgestaan en gedink ek moes vanoggend wakker geword het in Bloemfontein.
Môre.
In Pretoria.
Nee, weet jy wat? Ek ervaar 'n verlies.
Hallo.
I was going to say, welcome to what we call something new, but Jolandi, jy was daar saam met ons met die eerste ene. Jy en Sean Dry was daar met ons heel eerste ene met die eerste jaar. So, hoe was dit gewees? Sê gaga vir almal, want ek dink almal voel bietjie senuweeagtig.
Dit was eintlik amazing geweest. Mens dis jy voel half verboureerd en angstig want jy praat met 'n kamera en later dan besef jy dit voel eintlik asof jy kan jouself verbeel asof jy regtig binne in 'n vertreksit waar almal bymekaar is want ons sien mekaar, ons hoor mekaar, alles vloei goed. Dit werk nie.
Dit werk. Mens mis die kontak. Mens mis daai persoonlike geselsies en hoe gaan dit met jou en daai goedjies mis ons, maar verder werk dit regtig. Mens en wat lekker is vir my is as ek iets gemis het, dan weet ek kan teruggaan en weer daarna gaan luister. Wat mens nie by 'n kontak sessie het nie. Geniet dit.
Ja.
Goed.
Right, Lizette. Ek dink ons is meer stiptelik hier as wat gewoonlik is met die koffie en alles. Maar ja, dit lyk asof meeste van almal hier is aan die gang is. So ja, ek sien hier is 'n hele paar mense wat al reeds aan die gang is en op online is. So ons gaan solank begin met 'n paar housekeeping rules net oor hoe die online sessie gaan werk. So most of it is going to be in English, but julle kan speak enige taal wat julle like. Dis okay. Ons is regtig hier sodat almal lekker kan verstaan en so daar's 'n paar dinge. Ons is almal in ons huise. So honde gaan blaf en kinders gaan verbyloop en allerlei goeders. So dis maar net die aard van die saak. Die internet gaan miskien baie keer so wobbly gaan. Ons is in Suid-Afrika, vir die van julle wat nie weet nie. So die internet kan ook so bietjie wobble. Maar moenie daaroor worry nie. We're going to record everything and what you miss we'll just upload onto YouTube and you'll be able to watch it as you did with the pre-assessments. So lots of new things that we're learning. Thank you for all the, how can I say, vir al die vrymoedigheid wat julle het en vir al die wat's die woord, Lizette, compassion en ek weet nie wat als nie, al die goeie goed, sodat ons hierdie beskikbaar kan maak vir julle. Dis soos julle sê, hierdie is obviously nie die voorkeer nie, ons wil graag by julle wees, maar soos julle al ook gesê het reg, jy weet, hierdie is net 'n add-on, 'n extra, 'n lekker byvoeging tot Philadelphia. Ek dink ons gaan meer van hulle hê, meer gereeld, wanneer ons nou weer vir mekaar mag sien en ek verskil van die president, ons gaan verseker drukkies en alles uitdeel, so dan moet ons nou maar 'n bietjie sak, solank julle net nie siek van ons raak nie, is alles goed. Maar ja, van my kant af, as jy enigsins sukkel met jou instellings of al daai goeders, die chatboxie is hier langs aan. So hy's aan die onderkant staan daar chat en ons gaan die meeste van die tyd so met julle korrespondeer. So dis lekker dat ons mekaar nou kan sien en ons kan mekaar hoor. Maar vir die meeste van die tyd, for the most of the time, we're going to ask that you switch off your video and your sound. If not, if you forget, I'll just help you and I'll mute you and unvideo you or hide you or whatever. So don't get angry at me. I'm not picking on you. It's just to keep the bandwidth stable. And yeah, so Lizette is going to present, and I will interrupt her and irritate her with stupid questions that are irrelevant, so that she can just stay on her toes. And then, we're going to have sessions where we head over to breakout rooms, and I'll explain those as we get to them. So it's really nice, so that we have this type of technology that we can use. And I think without further ado, I think we're about 18 people already here. I think there's one or two that still have to join us, but they'll just join us as they come along. So what I'm going to do is, I think, Lizette, let's pray. Shall we pray? Open the day. And I think then Lizette's going to have a bit of an icebreaker with us, something that we can, get you guys used to this online platform. So be ready to play along and don't freak out. You won't have to dance like a TikTok video or something like that. So we'll let you know how that's going to work. But let's just pray together. And as you pray, as you close your eyes, you can close your video as well. And Lizette, you can keep yours on.
Thank you.
And let's just pray. Switch off video, audio. Just let me just get that quickly. Eens kyk gou hier. Wie gesels lekker saam? Ja. Dis hy. Kom ons bid gou. Vader, ons sê vir U dankie. Lord, we thank you for your goodness, for your love, and for just our ability to be with each other today. Lord, you say that there where 2 or 3 are gathered in your name, there you are. So we are gathered in your name here, and you are with us. So we thank you for this next 2 days. We thank you that you're in control, and we ask that you will just bless us, Lord, as we embark on this journey to become skilled helpers, to be able to help people in need. Lord, there's so many that need help, and there's so many people that are really struggling at the moment. So therefore we thank you. We want to say that we are available for you to use us, and that you are completely in control. We just dedicate this day to you specifically, just all the technology and the internet and everything, Lord, that it be stable, and that it will work well. And we thank you that we can just experience you in a whole new way, and each other. And we thank you for that, Lord. We worship you, and we give you all honor and praise. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Okay, so this morning we're going to start with something that should be quite fun. So what I want you to do is, have you all got your cell phones with you? And in the chat box or on your in front of you, you will have a little thing that says thumbs up. So I want you all to just give me a thumbs up, those that has got these cell phones with them. So can you find that on your screen?
I want to just say, Lizette, if for some other reason, thanks for reminding me, you get kicked out of Zoom, or you don't know what's happening or going on, we have the WhatsApp group. So I've also got that here in front of me. And if you really need help, you can't get back in, or just let me know on WhatsApp, and we will help you out.
Okay. So have you got your phones, everybody? I see Salome, you're the first one with a thumbs up. You need a chocolate. Okay, so have you got your phones? Everybody's got their phones. Can I see thumbs up? Bernadette's got a phone. I've got a thumbs up that way. Karina, Yolandi. Okay, everybody's thumbs up. No, not everybody. I'm getting a bit anxious here, Jack. Carmen. Okay, so open your phones. And each one has got their own phone, so I can't help you on your phone. And I want you to go and look at your shoes and take a photo of your shoes for me. Okay, have you taken a photo? So it's very simple like this, and take a photo. Okay. Right, and then you're going to share it for us in the chat box or the WhatsApp group. Just add your photo to the WhatsApp group, the one for our contact session. And then I'm going to stop sharing screen, Jack, so that you can share screen, I think. Or I will try and share screen. Let me just go there and get it done.
I'll do that, or are you going to?
I'll do that. That's fine.
I've got it here. So
okay, then you can go ahead. I think I'm just on. I can't seem to unshare my screen right now.
Okay.
Everything.
Well,
so,
if it's shared, go for it.
Okay, let's try. Okay, so everybody should be finished by now, and then let us just see how. There we go. Okay. Right, Zelda has got boots. There is slippers. Oh, nice and warm, Carmen. Lekker gemaklik. Brenda. Oh, mooi skoentjie. Oh, lekker. Charmaine, dis nou warm. Baie cool. Martie en Charmaine het die regte idee. Wat? Marlene, comfortable. Zulette, dit lyk lekker skoene en okay. Ronald, ja, Richards Bay. Dis duidelik, nee. Kyk net wat leer ons vir mekaar se skoene deur net te kyk. Kan jy hulle sien, Jack?
Ek doen.
Okay, ekskuus, ek moes dit groter gemaak het. Ek dink nou eers, en daar's Nimi ook. Dis Jack se skoene as iemand wou gewonder het. Ek neem aan dis Jack.
Yep.
Want dis Nimi en daar's 'n Koolvoet. Dit is te lekker en warm slippers and running shoes. That is nice and good. And socks, no shoes. Okay. That looks like bed shoes and it looks like it's cold. There we go. Okay, so just from what we've watched today, what have you learned about everybody? Okay, let's just close this. Jack, ek sien nie, ek praat iemand op die groepie. Ek kan nie nou daar sien nie.
Nee, daar's nog niemand wat iets sê nie. Jolandi sê almal verskil.
Okay.
Ek dink ons elkeen is gemaklik in sy eie omgewing.
Ja.
Soos wat dit vir jou gemaklik is. En as jy kyk ook net na die skoene, nie eers na die gesigte nie, elke ou verskil van persoon tot persoon.
Okay.
Absoluut.
Anybody else? Ek sien niks op die chat nie.
Nee mense, julle is stoep stil, chat met ons. Ons almal lyk gemaklik, sê Chantay.
Okay.
Also, you can chat in the chat box or on WhatsApp. It's
Okay, so everybody's got some form of shoe, which is a positive and a good thing.
Carmen says that die skoene was iets van 'n mens se omgewing. Elaine sê vir almore. Karina sê verskillende skoene verrig verskillende funksies.
Okay. Ek het pink takkies aan. So ek's mal oor my pink takkie. Ek sê pink sneakers. I love my pink sneakers. It's got a specific story about it. And I actually did a sermon where I took off my high heels and put on my pink sneakers. I love it so much. And it got such a following that people actually went crazy in Lesotho buying pink sneakers. So that was rather funny.
So
just because that is rather funny. You see, guys, yeah.
The pink sneaker.
Excuse Jack, ek kan nie hoor nie.
The pink sneaker supplier was happy with you.
Yeah, there was only one shop, I think, in Maseru that sold them, so they were sold out, which was quite a good thing to happen. So, right. Okay, thank you everybody. That was quite interesting exercise, and you guys now getting more familiar with what we are doing. So let us quickly look at our, have you got your study guides? I want thumbs up so that I know that everybody, this is the difficult thing, is that I can't see if everybody's got their study guide in front of them or have access to their study guide. Thank you, that is great. So we can now go look at your study guide, because for us to begin, we need to just orientate ourselves to what we have actually studied. So the first one was just, how is this going to work? And remember, we spoke about the 3 learning instruments that will enable us to do the contact session in this, to be able to do our practical. The first learning instrument was the video lectures. Then, sorry, Jack?
I think I'm going to share for you. You're breaking up
Okay.
a bit, so you can relax.
Okay, I'll stop share.
Don't worry, and let me just get that up and running for you. Then you can just enjoy yourself.
Okay.
Right. Okay, so one. Let's just do that. And let's go over here. Can everyone see that? Great. Carmen says yes. Lizette, are you with us?
Yes.
Awesome.
See?
Fabulous. There we go.
All right. Now I can just move that over there. Okay, so in your study guide, let's just go back to our study guide where we were, so that we can just orientate ourselves to what we've all learned. The first one was our learning instruments, and was the video lectures that we looked at, and we also looked at the study guide and how to actually use the study guide, which was quite important. That the study guide helped us to serve as interactive learning. And then we looked at the now today we're at the third learning instrument, which is the webinar, and we're going to need you guys to really engage us. And I hope that you all got your colored pencils or pens. You needed to bring some colored pencils or pens with you, so you must have it handy. We're going to use it during the course of the morning sometime. Okay, so we did an introduction, and who can remember what our introduction was about? So please type in our chat box. What was our who can remember what was the what was our introduction to this? Can you remember? We did a Bible study specifically on flexibility, and how flexibility and adaptability is actually important. Yes, thank you, Shantae. And how adaptability is one of those critical factors that we need in counseling. And we looked at Jesus as our example. Can you guys remember that whole interaction, and how important it was to be able to adapt to the client and the client's narrative, or client story rather. We spent some time on the helping process, and we did an overview of the model, and today we're going to have an in-depth discussion of the model today and tomorrow. We are also going to do some practical, let's say, exercises where you're going to talk to one another, or you're going to actually use one of the tools that we have. We spoke about the natural problem-solving process, and then we talked about the pastoral conversation. We're going to spend some time in the pastoral conversation today as well. And what's going to be important is that we are going to look at meeting a client for the first time, and all that. We're going to revisit one or two of that important factors. And then we looked at communication and listening skills. And remember, we had a whole lecture about body language, because the importance that you have to also learn about body language and what to look out for. So the body language is something that I want you guys to go and practice, especially in the season that we find ourselves right now. Just go and have a look at, when you go to your shops for your essential goods. A new term when we go shopping these days, it's I'm going to buy my essential goods for the week. So go and look at the way that people are interacting with one another. How do they talk to the cashiers? A friend of mine is a manager at a courier company, and she says they are overrun. They don't have enough drivers to deliver all the there's been an explosion on online buying, and the way that people are actually interacting with the drivers is fascinating. They are actually the drivers are actually getting the brunt of their frustration, which is interesting. The driver is not it's only the person delivering the parcel, the postman. Yet the client receiving the parcel is cross with the driver as though it's his fault. So they are having, it's an interesting scenario. People are angry in South Africa today, and they are choosing a target that they can engage, that they can, I want to say, project their anger upon. So body language is something that you guys really need to go and look at and look at the television, look at how people interact, practice that continually. And then we looked at a couple of the art of self-disclosure. I think Leonie said that was one of the nicest learning experiences, was how to self-disclose and when do you self-disclose. And can you remember there were 4 forms of self-disclosure, and what are they? That is important, because once you're going to one-on-one with your client, you're going to find yourself in a place where you're going to actually self-disclose. So it's rather important that you go and revisit the art of self-disclosure. And then we just closed off with a lecture about Rogers and his person-centered therapy, for those who can remember. And it was, we find ourselves now in a humanistic frame of mind, where the client becomes the focus of the conversation and not the knowledge of the helper or the counselor in this instance. And it was quite a shift in focus. And now the level 3Bs, the narrative therapy, is also built upon the foundation of Rogers' groundbreaking work. I can't remember, can anybody remember which year he was? Was it the 1950s? That he totally, and he's completely the opposite of how the psychotherapist framework or paradigm applies. So he has a new and a completely different focus. And we are now going to get to Egan, who is built on the framework of what is known as person-centered therapy. Okay, that was quite a mouthful for everybody, just to get us a frame of where we are. And before we start, I think, Jack, if we can maybe move to the next slide for me, please. You can move forward. We are in the helping process, and this was part of level 1 that we actually did the helping process as well. And we are going to look at the helping process, and we're going to give a spiritual foundation for the helping process. So have you got your Bibles? Let's bring them closer. And then we're going to look at only one verse, but we are going to read context as well. So has everybody got the Bible with them? I need you guys to interact with me by giving your thumbs up or in the chat box that you are on cue, because I cannot see if you guys are with me. Okay, so I need you to open your Bibles to Psalms, and a very, very important Psalm, Psalm 145, verse 14. 145, verse 14. We are going to look at this verse, and we're going to look at it, and we're going to in context with the helping process. So here's the helping process in your, and we're going to look at it. What does the Bible say about engaging a client in a specific manner? Psalm 145 verse 14 reads, "The Lord upholds all that fall, and he raises up all that is bowed down." Now, this is, if you're going to read the whole psalm, it's a psalm of David, and there is a contrast between verse 13 and verse 14. In verse 13, David is still exalting the power and the praise of the Lord. And it's an interesting, Psalm 145 is interesting in the way that David engages God. If you're going to go read the whole of the psalm, you're going to find that David refers to God as in the form of power. He's a king. He's powerful. He has creative ability. So within this whole framework of the psalm, David has got a specific manner in which he addresses God, completely different to Psalm 23, for example. We focus on that God is his shepherd. Here he talks about, and this maybe you can write down, the majesty of God. Jack, can you perhaps in the chat box put verse 13 and verse 14 for me? Then we can just see the contrast between verse 13 and verse 14. So now, there we go. Let's just read verse 13. Your kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and your dominion endures throughout all generations. Verse 14 then reads, the Lord upholds all that is falling and raises up all that is bowed down. When we read between verse 13 and verse 14, we find a stark contrast, because this doesn't follow that at the one moment, God is this powerful, everlasting king. There's nothing that challenges the kingship of God. That's quite important. Nothing challenges the kingship of God. May I add in here, and would you, Jack and Karina, would you forgive me? Not even lockdown challenges the kingdom of God. I want us to just understand this, that nothing challenges the king. It is beyond our generation. It was, meaning it's beyond time. It was before we were born and will last after we have died. That is what this kingdom is about. It's an everlasting kingdom. And then it comes and it talks about those who are falling and those who are bowed down. This everlasting king, this omnipresent, omnipotent God stops whatever he is busy with. His grandeur is not bigger than the fallen person. I want us to hear about that. You see, the Lord loves to reverse the human condition. You guys can go and study this a little bit and find out for yourself, how many times does the Lord not talk in contrast to the human condition? He puts down the lofty and lifts the lowly. If you're going to look at the Sermon of the Mount is all about the reverse of people and where they find themselves. So he comes in this place and he says that he is the one that has enough time to uphold those who are not strong in this season. Because here's the thing, the client is going to come to you in the following conditions. They have either fallen down or they are bowed down. Those are the two conditions that the client is going to arrive in your counseling space. And you're going to meet them as a fallen person or a person that is burdened heavily. Our job is then in facilitation with the Holy Spirit to encourage them, to lift them up. Because if you look at the results of falling down and bow down, means that the person is discouraged. That is actually the emotion. They are discouraged. They cannot continue. They cannot lift their heads up. They cannot find comfort for their hearts. Some people are come to us because they've made a mistake. The result of their falling down is because of a decision that they have made. Second thing, they might have come to you because of a heavy burden that is, let's say, a child that is in using drugs. It's a continuous burden. It's not a burden that is, for instance, I need to go for operation and then healing happens after that. There are different types. Some can be continuing and others can be an event that's external to them. And now for God to be, or for God to have an everlasting kingdom. And the word Lord there, you can add the word Adonai. That is the oldest form of address for God. That is his power name. It's not his secret name, as many people think. It is the name that is actually referred to first in the Bible. When he created the earth, is Adonai. So now we get to this point where we say that David now puts a contrast. He says he does not use his power to break or bruise even further. So God is aware of his power that he has, but he is ready to curb his power in a sense and with gentleness engage the weak. Because we must remember the person who is falling and the person who is bowed down are weak. They haven't got strength to sustain themselves. Maybe sometimes they cannot even stand on their own 2 feet. And now God is saying, but I will prop them up. I will assist them to stand. Some people are bowed down by many different things. Infirmity, spirituality, remorse. It can be the body, soul, and spirit. It can be a body problem, it can be a soul problem, it can be a spirit problem. Any one of those can actually play a role in that place. So what do you and me take out for us in 2020 when we're going to focus on actually assisting a client? Because we must remember that the whole of South Africa, every single one of them, I wonder if I could not ask you, if you are honest enough and you take off your mask of Christianity and you type for me in the chat box your real experience of lockdown. Anybody, just type in your real experience. I will go first and I will say, this is my It's awful. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Brenda, you are one of the few that enjoy it. the introverts among us.
Okay. Frustration. Disbelief and frustration. It's isolating. Okay. You guys type in your things. And to those who are saying they are enjoying it, here's our reality. This happened to us last week. Because there is not a support to those who are really poor. There is publicity campaigns, yes, but not real support. The guy is in his, let's say, 74. He hasn't eaten in 2 days. Hungry and alone. No family, he cannot call. He hasn't got money to call anybody. Because everybody's saying, why isn't he just saying something? How? He hasn't got money for a phone. He hasn't got food to eat. Do you know it took us 2 days to sort out that he has a plate of food every third day? That's the best we can do for him, or best that Craig could do for him. I did not really get involved in that. Only every third day. So he will have 3 cooked meals in a week. Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. So I understand that for those who do not find themselves to be people that do not really need other people in their lives, it might be okay. But what about those? We are not even allowed to give food parcels to him at this point in time. We have to bring him food, but we cannot give him food parcels. So can you guys see that if we just ask what is our real situation in this, and how do you help somebody when you can't take him a plate of food? Because you are only allowed to travel in certain times. So what do you actually do? How do we engage people around us? So now you're going to meet your clients, and your clients are going to find themselves within this space. They're going to maybe be frustrated, angry, missing their people. And they are going to, and from this position, you are actually going to engage them. But how can we stimulate hope for them? The first one is the fact that we must remember this in the season of being challenged. He upholds all that falls. No matter if it was fallen by sin, a choice that they have made, or that they've backslidden, or that they have fallen because of something that they had to do that was against who they are. It implies an action. It implies that you and me have to get engaged into the life of the client. And we get engaged in the life of the client by using empathy, our second dimension. And by engaging them with empathy, we actually help them to empower themselves. Because remember, what is the aim of the helping process is for the client to help themselves. That's actually the aim of the helping process. And perseverance will help them to keep standing up. Because here's the thing, we have to persevere through lockdown. There is no choice. We cannot change it. Shantae says so many people are coming to ask for food in this time. Yes, the poor people is going hungry, and in this season, I don't have the resources to feed everybody. We are trying to now get blankets together to be able to help people in that hasn't got a blanket. And now look what is Karina is saying, guys, please look at that. Shame and judgment can't stand in the presence of empathy. So once we show empathy, that judgment that people experience and that judgment that leads to shame is then, I want to use the word disbanded, Karina. Does that sound right? It's almost as though it gets untangled from their identity.
Lizette, if you put shame and judgment in a petri dish and you add empathy to that, it would just literally like dissolve. It brings people to a place where they can just be extremely open and honest and vulnerable. And it's through that vulnerability that actually the healing starts.
So it's in that place where the person that's bowed down, I want to use the words of our scripture, is then lifted up. Because they experience the love of God through empathy. And then the last thing that I want us to realize is that God is bigger than the situation of the client. You have to believe with every fiber of your being, with everything inside of you, that God has an answer for that client. That is so important. Because the way that you express yourself, or I want to use the Afrikaans chat, maybe you guys can help me with the English. Die wyse wat jy jouself handhaaf in die spreekkamer. The way you conduct yourself in the counseling room should be always one of hope. that doesn't mean that you are going to be better than. It's not a better than. It's not the hope or the position that you have from a pulpit that you speak down to the and say, you have to be hopeful. No, you hold a position of hope so that the client can hold on to that. And then hope will start to stimulate in their lives. You see, the helping process is always, and we have spoken about it, in partnership with the Holy Spirit. That means that we trust the Holy Spirit to comfort us as well as to comfort the client. Yes, Zelda, it's true. The change in the client's reaction is always something that I always say it strengthens my faith. With empathy, we cultivate healing or healing environment. And we do this with listening. Listening is the application. And then we get to our fourth dimension, which is called Egan, where we are actually going to start. Thanks, Jack. And now we're going to look. Remember your first year, you did the CU psychosocial model. Can you remember the case study that we did in year one? The new model for the first years is the GROW model, which Yolandi and Chandray did this year as well. And then we have, in your second year, you had the dialogical learning model. This year we have Egan, and next year we're going to have narrative, a narrative approach to therapy. So the dimension changes. You're also going to learn about trauma. So, but the first, second, and third dimension, they are, can we say, they're like the wheels of a car that's got only 3 wheels. They stay there. You do get cars with only 3 wheels. They stay there and they are always in the same position. But the fourth dimension, the center one, it changes. It's like the GPS. You change the GPS to fit the client and the story that the client experienced. Okay.
Lizette, I just want to say that these three, or this diagram that we have is critically important. It's every year you'll hear this and you'll see this, but many times I find that people kind of forget what are the pillars of good counseling process, and it's important that we realize that the model that we use is unique to the client. So we have to begin to understand how to diversify that. But obviously, our role is in service of God. So the Holy Spirit is first and foremost the one that does the counseling. He is the counselor. Then obviously, we cannot do what we do without an empathetic relationship. It will be challenging. And then listening skills, obviously. For those of you who have been outside with your mask on, have you seen how difficult it is to communicate with people through this mask, that because you can't see their lips move? So all of a sudden you have to focus on your listening skills, but now you tend to look more at people's eyes. So it's kind of interesting how our lives have changed quite radically.
That is true. They actually got a special mask now for people that are deaf who lip reads, that they're actually using now. This is open. This is then open so that they can actually read. But for them, the ability to hear what other people are saying is not there. So that is quite a challenge. Okay. So we're going on to now, we're getting into what we are actually here. Dis aaklag met die maskers aan, ek stem saam. Ek stem baie saam. Dis moeilik, jy kan glad nie daarmee hardloop nie. Ek dink jy kry suurstof, oxygen, wat is dit? CO2.
You'll fall over if you don't do that.
Okay. So, right, guys, we are now getting to the important thing about what we're going to do for the next 2 days. For the next 2 days, we are going to be busy with this model. This is your, I want to say, overview of the model. it is an important overview because it helps us to understand where we are in the process and where we are actually moving to in the video or in the model. And it's quite important. So we have Egan is made up of 3 stages. It is, and you're going to find that each slide, that the slides are color coded. So when we are busy with stage 1 is going to be this yellowy color, stage 2 is going to be green, and stage 3 is going to be blue. So that we don't get confused about where we are in the model. I'm going to ask those that have printed out their work that you keep page 36 out somewhere on your desk, or otherwise that you quickly just draw this so that you have this handy to find where we are in our model. Otherwise, we can get a little bit lost.
What you can do actually is, if you don't have it printed out, you can just take a photo. Take a photo of the screen, and so you have it there with you close by.
Okay, so now you need pen, and I actually do have a yellow pen that writes nicely. Let me just find it. It's got like pastel colors in here. So, but obviously you might not have a yellow pen. So let us just look at, you're going to use your yellow pen and you're going to use a green pen and a blue pen just to make sure that you're following in the frame of mind. I'm not going to repeat this. I'm hoping that you guys will just remember this. So use your color pen to write where we are in each phase, or highlight with yellow, or whatever the case might be. Right, so the model has got 3 stages. The first one is the current, then the preferred, and then the action. So this is the way that we're going to use to try and explain how the model actually works. And obviously the model is individual. If you're going to go to page 37 and you keep your model next to you, we're going to look at how everything actually plays out. The first one is the current scenario. So this one tells us, you can write this down, what is happening in the life of the client. What's making them feel like they are falling or that they are bowed down. So you can add that to that. That is the reason they are coming to see you. Then we go on to stage 2. Stage 2 is the preferred scenario. That means that is a place where I want to be, where I don't no longer want to have this burden in my life. I want to move to the preferred scenario. And then we get to stage 3 is, how are we going to get there? This is the how, the actual getting there, the plan that we are going to make. Between stage 1 and stage 3, there is a bridge, and you're going to see it in our PowerPoint, but I want you to draw a little bridge between stage 1 and stage 2. A bridge is just a simple line that connects them. Preferred scenario will be our bridge that we are going to use to get to stage 3. To get to stage 3. Okay. So the current scenario, if we move on to okay, let me just complete this before, Jack, thanks. We can move on to the next point. The current scenario is quite important that we do not move too fast. Here's our overview of the model. You see there's a little bridge in between. And in the current scenario, we're going to listen to the story of the client. And we are going to listen to blind spots, things that they don't see, and what leverage we could have, what is in their story that we can help them to build a bridge to the preferred scenario, and how we're going to be able to apply it. Remember, the foundation of Egan is that the answer is in the client themselves. Just write this down. The answer is in the client themselves. This means that you are like a person that is mining, a sort of miner that goes down and looking for this moments where leverage, that you can find leverage to help the client. In other words, times where they did persevere, times where strategies that did work for them to get to a preferred scenario. And what can they do? Always remember that it's what the client can do. It's not about what you can do. You don't live the life of the client lives their own life. What possible actions can they do? Okay, so this is the little picture. We're going to come back to this little picture all the time, which is going to help us to focus and refocus. If you feel a little bit lost in the process, remember, I can't see your faces. I need you to talk to us and ask a question, and so on. Okay, so let us go and dive into, let's just read it quickly on page 37 in your student guides, what is happening in each of the basic situation that we are going to look at. Jack, you can go on to the next point. And understanding the basics, you need to highlight this for me, is the model helps the client to ask and answer 4 fundamental questions for themselves. So this is the basic of the model. And what are these questions? Okay, we can move to the next point. It's on your page 37 for those who are there. And I want you to look at the information that we have. What are the current problems? What are the problems, issues, concerns? And look at the word undeveloped opportunities. What are the undeveloped opportunities? Maybe you can highlight that for me, that the client could be working on. And the answer to this question is the client's current states of affairs or the current scenarios. So why are they coming to see you? What are their struggles? And maybe these are something that they can actually do about the situation that they do not know about. Right, undeveloped opportunities. Let's use a current scenario so that you guys can understand where we are. I will send a photo of it a little bit later. I was not thinking about it. We live in a small town. Now, poor Jack, Karina, Chandray, and Yolandi have heard this many times. Being in a small town, we don't have the access to shops the way that you guys that lives in bigger towns have. So, or cities. So we haven't got any, I think, yeast in our towns anymore because people, I think, are brewing. So I can't bake bread, for example. So now this my problem is I can't bake bread because I want to make pizza. That's actually what I wanted to make for the weekend. I wanted to make pizza and there was no more yeast in our little shop. No more yeast in Brandfort, actually. So what can I do about it? So now I've started to make my own yeast and it's actually quite fun. So what is the undeveloped opportunities? I could learn a new skill. The problem is that we have no yeast. We didn't eat pizza on Saturday. I could not do anything about that. But there are undeveloped opportunities. For instance, I'm now learning to make my own yeast. So coming Saturday, guess what we're having for dinner? Yes, pizza on our wood-fired pizza, if you don't mind, because our little Bri can do a pizza thingy. So yes. So what is the undeveloped opportunities? That helps us to listen for something that the client can actually work on. What is the preferred scenario? What do I need? What do I want in place of what I have? The last question you need to highlight, or the last sentence, please highlight that for me. What do you want in place of what you have? That is something the client doesn't always think about. That's also something you can ask them when we get to the preferred scenario. Okay, so tell me, what will you have when the problem is no longer there? What would have changed? Answers to this questioning constitute the preferred state of affairs or preferred scenario. In other words, the way the client believes the life will be better if they did not have the current problem. Thanks, Jack. We can move on to the next one. That is strategies and actions. Okay. I want you to look at on the left of the screen. You will see the word strategy, and you will see that there are different forms of movement. Jack, can you maybe just go and see? It indicates movement. It indicates there's a calendar. There's a light bulb that talks about ideas. There is a mechanics, something that moves. And then there's can you guys see it? A trophy. So there's an outcome that you want to actually get. There's a prize that you want to move to. So how do we get to that prize is what we're going to answer in this phase. What do I have to do to get what I want or get what I need? We are going to discover the importance of want and need, and we are going to bring it into the lockdown situation right now that most people are struggling with. Answers to this question will produce a strategy or a plan for action that will accomplish goals. You see, this is the wonderful thing about Egan. Egan allows you to actually do something about the problem. It's not a place where we just listen and listen and listen. I can't tell you how frustrating it is when clients refuse to actually go over to action. And then the strategy or the plan must go over to action. And we call this, you can maybe just write this down next to point 4, make an action plan. In other words, this is a step-by-step process. I want to come back to my yeast. To make live yeast takes 7 days. You start off with 50 ml of water, or 50 grams of water and 50 grams of ordinary flour. And you mix it together. And every day, it takes 12 hours later, you disregard about 50%, or you'll disregard half of, let's say 50% of that has grown, and you have to feed it every day. It's now the 4th day that it's going. That it is busy. And for the first time, my container is too small. Last night when I fed it, I threw out about 2/3 of what was in my, and I added only 100 grams of water and 100 grams of flour. Mix it through this morning. It's like alive and it's bubbling and it's starting to smell like yeast for the first time. It smelled gross the first couple of days, I can just tell you. But every day at about 6 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, I have to go and I have to feed my my live yeast, for example, so that I can get my pizza on Saturday. And we don't have pizza delivery shops by where we live. So we can get to my pizza on a Saturday, for example. But can you see this is an action plan? It's a mode of action. It means getting something done. And I must say, the first 2 days, it didn't seem like anything is really happening. From the 3rd day, I could see something is happening. And this morning when I woke up, it's really moving and it's alive. So, and what you do is you use the disregarded yeast in your flower beds or compost. It will feed the soil. So nothing goes to waste, which is another thing that's important for me. So how can I get my pizza? I make my own yeast and I start it daily. Can you guys see what I'm talking about? It's a plan, a mode of action, and every day there's an action that happens and it makes you feel accomplished at the end of the time. Yeah, this is stage 3. Yolandi, it will be in stage 3 that we get to strategies and action. Okay. Any more questions there? Jack has sent a screenshot for us. Let's just open it. You guys have to open it yourself to see. I can't open it here. So that is where we are. Okay. We can move on to the next point, Jack. Right. So Egan aims to help the client to address 3 main questions. Now, these 3 questions, what you are learning today, is actually going to help you when you write your script, because it's exactly the same questions that Osmer asks when you write the questions. What is going on? What should be going on? And how we should respond. So this is actually, once you understand these 3 questions, you'll be able to write your script. And you can start thinking about your script, which I actually want to encourage you guys, is to start thinking about your script. Jack, Karina, Chandra, can we make a little note and maybe talk about script ideas at the end of this contact session so you guys can start to do your research so long?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's so important because year 3, if you really think about it, is actually 2 years. It's not just the 1 year. So the whole package, if you really want to get all your training done, is a 2-year process. So starting to think now about your actual script is going to be very beneficial.
Okay. So there are 3 main questions. What is going on? The current problem. What do I want instead? The preferred. And how might I get there? The strategy. So that's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. You guys can write it down there. Although on page 38 in your student guide, it's numbered 1, 2, and 3. But you can write then phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Just some interesting points. When we talk about the model, it's in general. Not everyone always needs to address all 3 questions at times, and people can move back into a previous answered question. Remember the adaptability that we did in your second video lecture. But we are going to look at it sequentially. You're also going to do your practical sequentially. So this is how it's going to work. But in real life, a client can move backwards and forward between the different questions or different stages. It's okay to go back to a previous stage when appropriate. I just want to make a mention here. Let's say a client starts to talk about their problem, and we really let's just talk about my problem of not having fresh produce or not having the basics that everybody else takes for granted in bigger centers. Now I'm just expressing something, and now suddenly the next point brings me to that was my current problem. And as I was giving it, I also say, but now, because I'm so isolated, I can't even see my dad. That's a second problem. So now you can ask the client, what is the problem you want me to address? The fact that you don't have contact with your dad, or the fact that you don't have fresh produce? Which problem do you really want to address? Because remember, as things comes to the surface, more and more problems may surface. There's an interesting cooking technique. You know, when you clarify soup, you have to add soup or let's just use the word soup. When you make a clarified soup, who knows what you add to clarify a soup, to make it clear? Who wants to take a guess? Don't Google, answer quickly. I'm waiting for answers here. I think, Jack, this is quite a question that people don't know. Okay, you add egg white to your soup, but this is a difficult process. And then you clarify it, and let's say the particles will all rise to the top, and then you use a spoon to very carefully make it clean, so that when you have this clear, almost see-through broth rather than soup. It's more like a broth. Sorry, Jack?
No, I just said that's a nice tip.
I just learned something. Okay, so that's how you clarify it. But this is a delicate process. And when we are busy in the counseling room, it's the same process. Lots of stuff comes to the surface, and we need to decide, what are we going to clarify in this session, because you're going to work with preferably one problem that the client have or one challenge that the client has. Okay, right. So now we can go to the next point. But I think, Jack, for the next point, we are going to break into a discussion room. Okay.
Okay, 100%.
So I would like the guys to stay in the same groups of 4, if it's possible. I don't know, how many students are we?
Well, Lizette, I currently, I can do a 4. Let me just do the following quickly whilst we are here. So how the breakout rooms are going to work is you will be automatically placed in rooms. Basically, there are going to be either 3 or 4 people in the room. I think what I am going to do is I'm going to put Chandra in room 2. So basically, you will have 4 people in each room, and don't worry, it should all happen automatically. But if you have to click a link that says continue to breakout room, do that. And Lizette, how long time do you want this discussion to go on?
Well, let's just have a 20-minute discussion, Jack. So all we're going to do is we're just going to discuss the overview of the model. What is happening at each stage right now, as an entry, and just so that we have this feel of what actually happens. And the second thing is they need to make a group name for your group, so that it's easier for us to just put everybody back into the same group. It doesn't matter what type of group name you choose. Make it simple. Remember, year 2, simple is best.
So we are going to continue into this group. Now, what a breakout room is, it's basically just a smaller room. This is a big room, the main room that we are currently in. So we're just going to place you into smaller groups so that you can have a discussion. In that discussion room, I want you to put on your videos and your audio so you can actually see each other and chat, or at least just your audio. If you're struggling to switch on your video or audio, all you need to do is you can call me. There will be a button on your display at the bottom which says just call host or call for help or something like that, and I'll come into the group and I'll just quickly help you out with your visual or your audio. So this is going to be the first time we're going into a breakout room, so don't be scared. You're not going to get lost in cyberspace. What is going to happen is you're just going to have a good discussion, and then after 20 minutes, I will then call everyone back from the breakout room. You're going to see a little timer that's coming that will appear and gives you 30 seconds to come back, and then after 30 seconds, the room will automatically close. Then you'll be back in the main room. So let's give it a try. Again, don't panic if you're not finding your way around. I'll still see if there's someone here, and I will help you into a room. So let's do that. We're going to have 20 minutes. Let's say till about 10, 9. And you're also more than welcome to quickly take a break if you need it as well. So let's open the rooms, and remember to think of a group name.
Ja, okay. Ja, ek is in Benoni.
Okay.
Okay, so Benedict is van die koue plek.
Ja, ons is hier op die plaas.
Hallo, ek
Goed.
hierso.
Hi Jack.
Hi Charmaine, daarso is jou. Ek sien jy het nie 'n videoetjie nie.
Ek het gedink is dalk ja issue. Okay.
Jy is dan in die stem en die gees daar. So.
Yes. Wel ek verkies eintlik dat julle my nie sien nie.
Ja. Geniet dit.
Okay, dankie.
Dankie jy.
Dankie
Okay,
Jack.
julle ek dink is ons Hi Jack.
Hi Jack.
Hi. Leonie, ons kry haar nie gesien nie. Sy dink jy het haar kamera afgesit. Ons weet nie. Kan jy dalk vir Leonie?
Hallo.
Dankie. Okay.
Daar sê hallo Leonie.
Oh, ja.
Thanks Jack.
Hey.
If all else fails, call Jack.
Jack, kan jy my hoor?
Hallo, ja, ek kan.
Ek dink ek het net nou 'n blaps gemaak. Wat moet ek druk dat my gesig nie heeltyd wys is soos in die konferensiekamer is?
Okay. In jou aan die onderkant het jy so 'n nou 'n strook met daar staan mute en video en so al wat jy doen is om jou stem te stop, dan druk jy die mute knoppie, dan sal hy so 'n rooi streepie kry en dan die video knoppie as jy hom druk sal hy ook weer 'n rooi streepie kry en dan kan jy hom aan en afskakel jou klank en jou video.
Ekskuus, die mute het ek gehoor as ek nie wil my stem moet gehoor nie.
Okay.
En die
Nou
een is video.
ja, net langsom is die video ene en hy werk op dieselfde beginsel.
Okay, so dan moet 'n streepie deur al twee wees.
Dis korrek, ja. Maar as jy wil praat of 'n video of jou video wil aansit dan moet hy nie streepies deur hê nie.
Goed, baie dankie Jack.
Okay. As hy liewe nie, dis reg. Hy nou is jy 100% reg.
Okay, it's almost terug, Jack.
Dit lyk my so. It looks like it. What you can do is the name that you've decided on, put it in the chat box, so we can have that, and I can just make sure that you all go to the same group again. Ja, julle is nou almal buddies, so dit is nou werk.
Okay. So we're going to have half an hour and then it's tea time. So let us quickly just go through the next half an hour and then so we can get to tea time. And Jack, if you can share screen with us again. And we are on page 38 of your, we're on page 38. Right. Everybody ready? And remember, we're trying to use our yellow pens if those that can use yellow or a different color. So what is stage 1 about? It's about providing, and I need you to highlight this for me, a safe space or safe place that the speaker can tell their story. I want you to highlight the word safe. You're going to use empathy. Remember what Karina said, that if we put shame and judgment in a petri dish with empathy, they cannot survive. They cannot survive with empathy. So that safe space is part of your job. And we talk about the speaker, or you can change the speaker to client in your student guide, where they can tell their story, their current problem, in their own way. Please highlight the word own way. They are going to use language that is unique to them. And you're going to have to listen to that. You are also going to have to acknowledge them and that you have heard what they actually said. So it's important, acknowledge the client. You will also acknowledge their pain. That's another thing that you're going to acknowledge. Write that down. You also need to acknowledge that they are in pain, they are bowed down, they are struggling, and they are in a difficult space. So you can just put that down. And it's about a space where people can hear and understand their own stories. So again, it's a space where people can hear and understand their own stories, to be fully acknowledged. And it's also about gently helping them to lift their heads to see a broader picture. Don't you want to write down Psalm 143 verse 14 for me there? So it's so important because it gives them a different perspective, and to find a point in which to go further. So on your screen, you will see the what stage 1, what is going on. You're going to see the current scenario. It should be all in yellow, and the story that's being told. And we're going to focus on the story. That's going to be our first point. To be able to, that's our first part that we're going to do this morning, is the current scenario. Okay, so moving on, we have covered this in your preparing for the contact session in your video lectures, but you are going to meet a client for the first time. It's not that easy. Chandra, are you there? Can you quickly tell us, can't see her. Can you quickly tell us, is it nerve-wracking meeting a client for the first time? What is your experience when, and you have done this a couple of times?
Yes, it is very nerve-wracking. Every time when I see a client, I feel that my throat is tightening up, but all you need to do is just, well, what I'm always doing is just be still. And number one person who's with you is the Holy Spirit to make you calm. When you are calm, your client will be calm. It's just like a little baby. When the mother is agitated, the baby will be agitated. So it's the same thing for us as counselors. Just be calm.
And be yourself.
Be yourself, yeah.
I think that's also important. So how do we prepare ourselves to meet a client for the first time? Obvious. We think this is obvious, but it's not that obvious. Look out for your client. Make sure that they are there. And you can meet them at your gate or your front door. If you live in a security complex, make sure that they are able to get to you, whatever the case might be. So how are you going to greet your client? That's quite important. Be friendly and smile, but not that cold smile, a real smile, one where you are genuine, I want to say. Meet your client warmly and professionally. The client may feel awkward or strange because they might have never been to a counselor at all. You take them through to your consultation area. Remember, they don't know where it is in your house, so explain to them where you are going, and ask a question. Did you find it easy? Was parking a problem? Whatever the case might be. You can have water to drink, clean glass with fresh water, bottled water preferably. I like this one. Pets can help to break the tension, but they can also be a disruption within the consultation room or the counseling room. So if you've got big dogs, maybe you should enclose them, even though you know they are friendly. But there's a little dog there at Jack and Karina's house. His name is Max. Now, Max loves people, but I think he will be the center of the conversation because he loves people. So it's okay to have them there to break the tension, but I don't think they should actually be in your consultation room the whole time. Some people might not even like dogs or be allergic to cats or whatever the case might be. In your pastoral framework, remember there was a greeting phase. That's about 5 minutes for general small talk, putting clients at ease. And then enter your conversation by telling your client what you plan to do during this today's session. Let's say, and we call this the orientation phase in the pastoral framework. We are going to close with how this works at the end of day 2, but you've already done this in one of your video lectures. So just write next to it your orientation phase by telling the client what you're going to do. Clients also have got, they are unsure of what to expect. So you do something simply. Let's say it's your first session. Today, it's about you and why you need to come and see me. See? Something as simple as that, and allow the client then, I'm just going to listen to your story. You can also tell the client, I normally do this, I take notes and I use my good excuse. And I say, I'm blonde, I forget something, and they always smile, and I have a pen in my hand. So that is how we go about it, make them feel comfortable. We are going to look for answers together. You can use that phrase. I always say that our conversation is confidential, or something about every person's problems are unique, their situations are unique. There's not a right or wrong way to tell me. That's something I also say. Just tell it as it is. Don't worry about the words and stuff like that. You as the counselor need to make sure that you have all your documentations handy and ready for use. That is part of your preparation phase. Make sure that you have done this. For instance, if you want to use emotion chart, or you want to have a pen and paper where the client needs to write something down, or you're going to make use of finger paints, or whatever the case you might be, make sure that you have everything ready and can lay your hands on it. Here you can rely on your group work preparation for last year. Remember how you had to prepare, make sure that everything is ready. It's the same principle. We don't go into a counseling room winging it. We go because we are working with God's flock, his people. We go in as prepared as possible. For me, this is very important. I want you to write in red next to it NB and highlight it. you do not use your cell phone in the counseling space. Unless it's to take a photo or something like that. But your cell phone is, I think it's almost better to put it on flight mode. Then you don't get any messages and you are not distracted by your cell phone. So ask your client to also put their cell phone off, and you can symbolically do it together if you like. Otherwise, they are distracted by the activity on their phone. And put it away. We can move to the next slide, please, Jack. In the things that you need to have is tissues, water, a clock, stationery, your notes, a Bible, maybe a place with water that's there, or a glass that the client can drink out of. Another thing is, if they cry, what do they do with their tissues? Have a handy container that they can just put it in next to their chair. They don't have to walk across the room to get to a waste paper bin. Make sure about your, we're going to get to the next point, the counseling room, but something, make sure that there's enough light that the client can actually move into and can see what they are doing. I know this sounds silly, but we forget some of these things. This is like a checklist for yourself that you can run through. Our counseling areas must always be clean, neat, and I want to add another word, orderly. So it mustn't look chaotic. Now, if I show you a picture of my desk, I've got 5 or 6 different color pens lying around. And so on my desk, it's always chaotic. So in my counseling space, I have to work and make sure that everything is orderly, that things doesn't look chaotic. If you have a window, it's always good that there's natural light. The word no unattractive pots or plants, this is quite important. On a personal level, I dislike artificial plants. It makes me think people are artificial. That's my personal opinion. So I prefer that if you have pots or plants, that they are alive and not dying. So this is not a plant nursery. And also you don't want a jungle that, you have to hide, look beneath the leaves of a big, huge plant either. It's not wrong to have plants in it's actually good to have greenery, some form of greenery, but make sure that it's conducive to your environment. And guys, all our scatter pillows, all those unnecessary pillows that people can sit on, make a plan with it, make it easy for the client to use. And maybe we should just put something down here, and we do it with the level next year, is what does your chairs look like? Because sometimes people put in the chairs, and let me just show you now what's happening. See, here's Compo. He's coming to say hello to everybody. He sits on my desk in the winter. So he's part of my office furniture. No unnecessary pillows, and your chair must hold the client, not sink in too deeply either. And the bathroom. In my experience, Jack, Karina, Chandray, Yolandi, maybe you guys can just add something. In my experience, you have 2 types of clients. One that comes in and say, I need to use the loo. And then some that use the loo at the end. So at some point, somebody wants to use the loo. So make sure it's clean, that there's soap that's in a little bottle like this. And there's a clean towel, one that hasn't been used all the time. By other people, especially if it's in your house and you have other people that also makes use of the bathroom in your house. Loo paper. After lockdown, everybody's got enough loo paper to last them for the next couple of years. But make sure there's loo paper down there, and that the bathroom is easy to use. I think that is what I want to say. And let them know. Let's say there's something wrong in the bathroom, just tell them it's not to be used. Karina, have you iets gesê?
Yes, Lizette, and I think with the whole lockdown and all the new regulations, there's a couple of other things that we will also need to take into consideration. One of them, having sanitizer and making sure that there is a little bit of distance between your 2 chairs, enough that you can comply with the regulations. So I think one of the things that I've seen is at most places they spray sanitizer under your shoes. So that is unfortunately part of the things that we will need to communicate with our clients as well.
I think, thank you, Karina. That's a good reminder. So please add it to there is sanitizer. It's part of the regulation, and at this point in time, I don't even know if we can hug. Is it only elbow rubbing that's allowed? So let's keep that in mind, Jack.
Send a virtual hug.
So just keep that in mind, and remember your masks in this season until they are inside your counseling space. All right. Anybody else want to say something, Karina?
Eintlik wat ek dalk net wou gesê het is ek dink iets wat dalk meer prakties gaan werk, want vir my is dit so belangrik om mense se gesigte te sien. As dit nie via Zoom of online is nie, het ek gedink sodra ek nou weer gaan begin kliënte sien, gaan ek eerder daai face shield gebruik in plaas van maskers, because I need to see people's faces.
I think, communicate that if that is needed in the counseling space. If I don't know if I think most of us will be able to counsel without that if you have enough distance between your two chairs. Otherwise, use the clear mask, the clear face, what do you call it, visor. It will be extremely funny though. But use that, and but make sure that the clients don't share the visor either. So I think that is something that is quite important. So
we would like to advise you to not share the visor.
So I mean, this is stuff that's coming up now, so I think it's important and relevant that we have to take note of it. Okay. Boundaries with your clients. I do not advise social activities. This is a no-no, especially with your clients. At My Philadelphia, we advise same gender counseling. Please keep to that. Professional boundaries. Professional boundaries, very important. Shake hands, for lack of a better description. Touching and hugging, keep that back. Dress. This is not a, let me say, dress professionally. You don't need to dress like you're going to a funeral either, but be dressed neatly. Be yourself in your dress, but it's also not a date where you wear your sexiest black dress and your highest heels, or I don't know what men wear when they go on a date, but be aware that what you wear, and we do not use alcohol with our clients. Alcohol usage, it conveys different messages to different people. So this is quite something that you must keep in mind. You do not use alcohol during a contact session or during your counseling space. You might need it afterwards. I think these are times when you need it afterwards, but not during that. If you're going to have communion, I suggest that you do it with fruit juice, because you may have boundaries. Yeah. So that is something that I really feel one should look at. And then, what is a client not? On page 41. A client cannot be somebody that you are having an intimate relationship with, like a lover. I advise against a relative. When you employer, an instructor or teacher, a business partner, or even a friend. It will influence your subjectivity. So that, because you will always call to mind stories that the client's not ready to share with you at this point in time, because the client might not be there. Obviously, if you are in a congregation, you're going to see your congregants. That is just the way it's going to be. But keep in mind that these are people that we don't advise. Your best friend should not be your client. It does impact professionalism. Also, it impacts the client-counselor relationship. Okay, so now we are getting to the story and the listening to the next slide. The helper or the counselor encouraged the speaker, the client, to tell the story, and they need to use good listening skills. So we are going to do a listening skill exercise. You need to go to page 41 of your student guide. It should have little squares around it. Does everybody have their little squares? Give me your thumbs up, please. And you need your color pens. And you're going to need to listen carefully to what I am going to tell you now. And then you're gonna, is everybody ready? Jack, is there thumbs ups for us? Is everybody ready for this exercise?
It looks like it, Lizette.
Okay. Have you got your different colored pens? And you're going to have to listen to my instruction. We're going to complete this, the square now. We're going to complete it. You're going to have to listen carefully. As you can see, there are 3 rows. We're going to start with the top row, left. Write your name in red. Use your purple pen and in the center block on the top line, draw a purple flower. On the right-hand corner of the top line, draw a blue heart. The middle line, first block, draw a yellow flower. The middle square, draw a red heart. The middle right block, in the middle line, color it in with yellow. Bottom row, first square, draw a purple heart with lines in it. Bottom row, middle block, draw a blue flower. The last block, a green heart with polka dots in it. Green dots, green heart with green dots. Stop. Okay. Now everybody must take a photo of the picture and send it for us. Okay, Jack, will you share the photos for me?
I can do that.
Thank you.
As long as when I see them in WhatsApp.
Okay, it's the first one there already. I hope they've finished and are not still busy with their drawing.
No, here we go.
Okay. Okay.
Let me just, I'll give you the final result right now. let's pop it over here. See if we can do that. There we go.
Okay.
Nice.
Well done. Ek het nie rooi pen nie, so dis pink. Bietjie verkeerd verstaan in die begin. Okay. So, julle het 8 sekondes gehad. You had 8 seconds to actually complete this this exercise. The point of this exercise was for you to listen to the detail of what was said. Some people colored in the pictures and we didn't say color in. So you inferred a meaning to what I said when you should have just have drawn a picture. Now, it's very important that we start to listen carefully to what the client is telling. It's not really right or wrong. It's not about that. It's about actually understanding what the client is trying to tell you. And that is what is so important. So listening to the detail of the story is what the client is telling it without trying to put my own thoughts to practice. So Karina, it's a powerful exercise. Thank you. It's also a good exercise to do to make us focus on what the client was actually saying. So I think with that, we're going to break for tea. And we'll pick up on this point again after tea. And half an hour, Jack?
Yes, half an hour is 100% right. We will be, let's say, back at 10:30.
Yeah. Okay. Have a good coffee, everybody. Okay, is almal terug? Looks like everybody's back.
It looks like it.
Okay. Okay. We're just waiting for the share screen to start and then we'll continue. And we are on your page 41 of your student guide. Okay. There we go. Everybody can see the screen. Welcome back after tea. I hope you guys had fun. On the group, I sent you what the square should look like. It's a little exercise that helps us to discover, are we listening to what the client is telling, or are we inferring meaning into the words that the client is using? So, good exercise. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Because phase 1A is about the story of the client. The helper encouraged the speaker to tell their story by using good and active listening skills. Demonstrating the core conditions. Okay, now I've got a question that you guys need to answer on the chat box. What are those core conditions we are talking about? Jack, you will have to help me with the chat box because I can't see that right now.
Yep.
Okay, what is the core conditions that we are talking about? Ooh, I have to go back to which video lecture? So, silence. Yeah, I've noticed that. Just want to see. You had to do an assignment about them as well. So it's not the listening skills model. The core conditions, who can remember? Still silence, Jack.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything.
Oopsie. Okay. I'm just looking, I can't remember which one was it. It was the last one actually about Rogers, person-centered therapy. It was video lecture 8. So the core conditions is there in video lecture 8, that congruency and so on, that's what we're speaking about, the core conditions. So you can just write there video lecture 8 in case you were not sure what we were talking about. Okay. And it helps the client to explore and unfold the tale and to reflect within themselves. Right, so skills that is needed is active listening, reflection, phrasing, checking and understanding, open questioning, and summarizing. Those are just some of the skills applied to be used. Here is a hint of some of the questions that you can ask. How do you feel about X, Y, and Z? What were you thinking? Highlight that question for me. What were you thinking? Because that is something that we don't always ask. Most of us as counselors are trained to ask the question about the emotion, and we forget to ask the question about the thoughts. One of the blind spots you need to identify is the negative thinking pattern. Karina?
And I think the important thing, Lizette, is the 3 things that are really integrated is think, feel, do. And we cannot separate it, because what we are thinking often determines how we are feeling, and that results in what we are doing. And that is what we also need to help the client to understand and to see these patterns in their own behavior.
So that's an important question. Highlight that. That's one we forget about. And here's another question. What is or what was that like for you? So that question you can write next to it is the do question that Karina spoke about. It's the experience. They are going to describe the experience when you ask that question. The next point, if you have a different highlighter, please highlight it. Keep your questioning open. And we're going to speak about what is an open question a little bit later. But an open questioning is that it's not just a yes or no answer. It is a question that helps the client to expand upon their problem story. And now look at the 3rd point. What else is there about that? You see, we are going to talk about lockdown from our perspective. It's frustration, or it's cool because this is where we have interaction, but what else is there about that specific situation? Karina?
And Lizette, that is such a powerful question, that what else? Because it helps the client to dive a little bit deeper into their own challenge and thinking, and even the options to move forward. So it is in the story as well as in the solution that what else is such a profound question.
That is also a question that you can use to challenge blind spots. So that is also a question that you can use when you need to expand on a story, when there's a blind spot, or when you want to determine an action or a plan or an outcome. That's the type of question that you can ask. Okay, so let's move forward to listening, and we're going to look at the definition of listening. Listening is we can move on, Jack, to the next slide. Thanks. We must move on to the value of listening, because we've just done that exercise. The definition of listening on page 42. To give attention to sound, listen to what we are saying, to give attention to sound or action. When listening, one is hearing to what others are saying and trying to understand what it means. The act of listening involves complex, effective, cognitive, and behavioral processes. Listening, when we are busy with active listening, it's actually an exhaustive process. So the act of listening is complex, and I want you to quickly just highlight the word effective. The word effective in this doesn't mean that you are effective in your listening skills. It talks about emotion. So change that for me to the word emotive. It's complex emotive and a complex cognitive and a complex behavioral process. When we as pastoral counselors listen to the story of the client, our whole self is involved. This includes our emotions that we experience when the client tells us their story. And the cognitive is your mind, what happens, your thinking processes, and both those has a play in the counseling room. And sometimes you have to check yourself that you don't get involved so emotionally or in processes that you lose the client, that you move into a space where you actually leave the client behind. The value of active listening. And you can highlight this, it builds strong relationships. And here's the next point is the strange phenomenon that is counseling. When we think about, especially the Afrikaans word berading, it seems to imply that we are going to use our words to help somebody else. In fact, we should use our skills of silent understanding. In other words, listening. That is actually more effective in helping the client when we are able to listen more than say. Most people today communicate about themselves in a superficial way, and it's because of social media that this is true. Strong and effective communication skills are essential in the field where emotions often reach critical levels. You will have to listen. Your listening skill should be like an X-ray machine to be able to see where the bones are broken. Let's say where the soul is broken. So you have to listen and apply your listening to X-ray the problem in a certain sense. Okay, we can move on to the next point, Jack. You need to complete this in your study guide. It's not complete in your study guide, so please complete it for me. You have the columns and you have the little faces. So let us quickly look at the columns and the little faces. The first L stands for look interested. This is the thing that I found the most frustrating about a webinar, especially since I cannot see you guys' faces. I have no idea whether you are with me doing homework, baking, whatever. I have to assume that you are interested in what we are saying. Please show thumbs up that you are interested, because that is so important. Look interested. Thanks, Chandra, Karina, Yolandi. Look interested in the speaker and what the speaker is saying. Involve yourself by intentionally responding to what is being said. I try to involve you guys in a listening exercise without too much explanations. I would love to know what you guys thought those squares were for when you received your study guide and there was nothing in there. I would love to come to some, what did you think is going to happen inside those squares? So involve yourself by responding. So we're trying to involve you in the webinar by making use of the chat, the thumbs up, and even the WhatsApp communication channel, because it's important that we respond to what is being said. And the middle one, stay focused. Guys, when we listen, it's easy for our mind to for our thoughts to stray from what the client is saying. You might be thinking about how I should respond or what I should say, or we need to do the following still, so that you move away from the words that the client is saying. So intentionally focus yourself on the client and what's happening within the counseling room. to be able to stay focused, you need to minimize distractions. There can be many distractions. You need to actively minimize your distractions. The next one. Do you see the little guy scratching his head there? Almost like a frown. Test your understanding by asking a question. Do not be afraid to look an idiot. For like, I don't know how else to put it. Make sure that you understand what the client is actually saying. Make sure that you understand the language that they are using. Make sure.
Be brave to be blonde.
Yes, thank you, Jack. Be brave to be blonde. That's a good way. Write it down somewhere. Be brave to be. Sorry for all the other guys that's blonde. The joke is at me or with me. So test your understanding, because it's better for you to look silly than to have a misconception about the client situation. Then you have to evaluate the message. What is the client actually telling you? What did you hear? Was the interferences? Now these interferences, I want to talk about that for a moment, can be your spiritual beliefs, your beliefs about God, your belief about the client's situation, and did the client effectively communicate their message? One of the most frustrating things during lockdown is that we don't get enough information so that we can plan with purpose. Karina and I was talking about it a little bit earlier on. The messages that we are receiving is lacking in information. So evaluate the message the client is telling you. And then the last one, because you are involved in the pastoral conversation, you have to neutralize your own emotions. Because you get angry doesn't mean the client also got angry. Or because you feel like you want to cry about this and the client shows no emotion doesn't mean that they're apathetic. That's the one way to neutralize your emotion. The second way is because we feel with the client. That's called empathy. We get an emotional overload. You need to find a space where you can, I want to say, discharge from this negative emotions, because with that emotional experience, you're going to go and you enter your family home, or you enter a new client situation, other client that arrives, and eventually at the end of the day, you are confused in your own emotional state. So check your emotional well-being. Roy Bennett said something very interesting, and this is a quote from The Light in the Heart. And he says, listen with curiosity, speak with honesty, act with integrity. The greatest problem with communication is that we don't listen to understand, but we listen to reply. When we listen with curiosity, we don't listen with the intent to reply. And this you can highlight. We listen for what is behind the words. So when we listen with curiosity, we listen for what is behind the words. You see, what's a good way to do is what you suggest, Lizette, to get rid of negative emotions. For the counselor, it is always good to have somebody that you can bounce off your emotional experiences. That you need to have a mentor or a supervisor in which you go and you talk about your negative emotions. Secondly, pray about your negative emotional experiences. Give it to God. And I really do mean it. Tell God that you got so frustrated because you gave the client, you motivated the client into action and they did absolutely nothing, or whatever the case might be. Talk to God about it. Third way that you can do it, journal it. excellent way to write a personal journal about your negative emotions from the counseling room. A fourth way is be creative. When we are creative, our negative emotions are discharged through painting, cooking, gardening, whatever is your creative outlet. A fifth way is to do self-reflection. What is happening to you at the end of your day? The daily ritual. At the end of your day, what was good, what was bad. Do a half an hour of self-reflection. There's a 6 point. You can go, and this actually works for me, is to go for a run or exercise of some kind. When I used to gym, I used to love the kickboxing, and that was a good way to get rid of negative emotions. So there are many ways to deal with your negative emotions. I just want to say, acknowledge that you are experiencing them, and then find an outlet that is conducive to you personally. Yes, boxing helps a lot, I agree. And thirdly, I think every one of you should think about getting a mentor or somebody that can help you through a process. Karina?
Lizette, just one other thing that I think we also need to be aware of is what am I allowing myself to consume during this time? Is there stuff that actually adds to the negativity that we maybe need to reduce? And I'm referring very specifically to, especially during this lockdown period, the social media, all the articles, most of the stuff out there is so negative. How am I going to stay positive? So part of that will also be self-boundaries, knowing what contributes to the negative emotions, and try and manage it from that perspective. Not saying avoid it, but limit maybe screen time if that is part of what triggers negative emotions for you.
Agree, Zelda. That is what Karina is referring to, the choices that we make. And the other thing, maybe I should just add to this, the one boundary every one of us have to have: this is not my life. The client's life is not your life. As hard as it sounds, the client's life is not your life. You cannot take that emotion and their way of living and make it your choices, your way of living. So that's another boundary, something to remind yourself that if the client choose something that is negative and that they end up in this situation, there's nothing you can do about that. You can't force a client to be healthy. Karina, did you want to add to that?
No, I just agree.
Yeah. Now, I think this is very important. And also ask yourself, maybe another question, maybe something else I can add here is the cycle of emotions. You did it in level 1 module, the one about therapeutic, I can't remember which module it was, but the cycle of emotion, Jack always say he uses that a lot to helping. The question is, what am I feeling? Why am I feeling like this? And is this helpful in my relationship with God, self, and others, and so on? So you can work through that emotions. Karina?
I think the important thing is we also need to be very self-aware in these things. And if something has triggered some of those negative emotions, and I think that is where the reflection and the mentoring or the supervision actually plays such a powerful role, is that we can identify those triggers in ourselves, that we can better manage it. And I think that is where the boundaries also come in.
Okay, thank you. So guys, can you see that neutralizing your emotions, why it's so important, and that this is actually a critical, the whole thing about therapeutic listening is becoming a critical skill in the season that we find ourselves in. Okay, so how to be a good listener. We're going to look at a fun part. It's the next slide. It's a physical representation of how to be a good listener. And I want you to look at this, and I love this picture. First of all, we listen with our ears. That's an intentional action. Listen with intent to the words that's being spoken, the sound that the people make. And when we listen to our ears, you also listen to tone and you listen to speech patterns that the client is using. I don't know if you've heard when Karina gets passionate about something, she's getting, some of the things have a lot of emphasis in her tone of voice. She's emphasizing through the tone of voice that she's using. And this is what we have to, this is the skill we need to develop. Eyes that are watching the client. Are they nervous? Remember the body language. Are they scratching their ear? Are they scratching their nose? Are they tapping their feet? And then the interesting thing, look at the little apple there. The lips are closed. Why are the lips closed? Because there's somebody else speaking at that time. Somebody else is talking. Feet are quiet. You're not tapping and dancing and moving around with your feet, and your hands are still. One of the things that's something that I found quite difficult. I talk with my hands, but that's when I'm talking, not when I'm listening. So it's important because it can become a distraction if somebody keeps tapping their feet. Or, I don't know if you can hear this, don't think so, tapping the desk or twitching with their pen the whole time doing this. People's attention and maybe just something here. I see that in a lot of people's offices, they have that, what do you call that thing? They've got a little water feature that goes water, and the whole time you have that sound of the water coming through. Or they have those, it's like a weight, and then you pull the one ball and it goes tick, 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 tick. The whole time it will drive me insane. I'll the whole time be watching that movement if I was the client. So what is the stuff that can distract a person? So remember, you listen with your whole body. Can we add posture to this? You turn towards the client, not lean back like this, but shoulders into the client, leaning towards them, respecting their space, and at the same time, encouraging them with your body, listening to them. This is something you need to practice continually. I hope you guys are sitting there and practicing on your chairs as we are talking through it. When I was taking up the video lectures, I was talking and moving and explaining, and Craig said, "Are you doing a video?" I said, "No, but I can't give good class if I don't use my whole body." So yeah, so it looked very weird from this point of the camera. What if you cry? Will that be a problem? Let's hear. What is everybody else's thoughts? If you cry easily, is that a problem? You can answer in the chat box for me. No, it shows empathy, says Elaine. It shows you are human, says Shantae. I believe they are absolutely right. I think it shows that we are part of the process. I also can cry quite quickly. I can show my emotion. I've got a very expressive face, which is not always a positive thing when you are trying to be professional. But I think it's a good thing. We are not called to be professionals. We are called to be Jesus' hands and feet. And that means that we enter the counseling space with compassion. I love what Bernadette is saying. She says it shows that you are actually listening and really feeling. So can we say this is authentic? Karina?
I think, Lizette, that is because there's so many times that my eyes fills up with tears when I sit with a client and hear some of their story. But we need to be cautious that it doesn't become a distraction or a disruption to the session, and that the focus move away from the client to you.
Okay, good point. Yeah, it's like you're saying, can be in control, not ending up being counseled by the client. Excellent point. Okay, so what tools are we going to use during this phase? We have got fantastic amount of tools, and you guys have got a lot of tools. We can move on to the next point, Jack. So we're going to get to the tools that you can use at this during stage 1 of the story. The first tool you're going to use is you're going to revisit your listening skills and body language. We have given you pictures, with like a little cards on it. That is something that you can listen to. Just want to make a note. Remember that double check the body language. Not everybody talks in the same way. Just keep that in mind. Okay, so revisit listening skills and body language. And then on your page 44, we have your first tool that you can use. This is a tool that is not unfamiliar with you. You had to do this during your Jack, we're going to go there now. I just want to quickly look at just tell them everybody, just this is not an unfamiliar tool. So we start off with something that you do know. Tool 2 is, I want you just to write onto tool 2, it's a tool for the counselor. It's how to actually display empathy. That is a new tool that you guys are going to learn for the first time. The third tool is to ask open questions. And then the fourth tool is again a familiar tool, the orange problem analysis, but it has been framed to be able to use within the Egan framework. Thanks, Jack. We can move on to the first tool 1. Okay. You all know this tool that you guys did in level 1. It can be used in 2 ways: to be completed before session 1 or as homework. It depends on how you want to do it. Remember, I cannot tell you exactly what tools to use because you're going to have unique clients. But what is the aim of this tool? The aim of this tool is to have a summarized life story of the client. So this is a good tool to have. If the client have completed this tool and they need to do a timeline for a blind spot identification, then they have already summarized their life story and it's easier to do a timeline. Okay, so does that make sense? So this tool, I really do not have to go into too much detail. This is the template. What happened in the past? When you were birth to a toddler, primary, high school, young adult, or senior adult. And my current problem situation. So it's got 2 parts, a part and a B part. And it obviously is longer than the template. So this is a session that you can give to the clients. You can email it to them. You will get valuable information when you have this tool. However, we are focusing on the current problem scenario. So do not get sidetracked that you get back to the past. The client is struggling with something currently, right now. So we must prevent ourselves from straying and going into the past. But this will give you valuable information. Right. Then we get to the next tool, which is called empathy mapping. This tool is for the counselor, and it is to discern the different elements of the current problem. It helps the counselor to listen to the story and to respond with empathy. So what happens during this, you're going to listen to a client's story and you're going to look at the facts they said. What did they say? What were the words that they used? Then when you are looking at what they did, right there, that is the action. So that is the behavior. That is what they did. They did the following. Just to keep in mind that language spoken is also an action, but we are separating it here. So when we talk about they did, is he picked up a rock and threw it, or drove into a wall. That's an action. So that's the actions, what they did. And then in the center, what did they think? This is more difficult. You have to sort of listen to it being dropped into the conversation. This is where you have to listen carefully. You know, I really thought they didn't see me. So this is something they would say like that. It's not something a client will necessarily tell you. I felt unseen. can be something in the same line. And what emotions did they use? Now, something we must all remember, you guys are busy with your 3rd year in counseling. This is your 3rd year. You have got an emotional vocabulary, yet it's still difficult for you. If I have to ask you what you're feeling right now, you should be thinking, am I anxious? Am I happy? Am I excited? Am I troubled? Am I worrying about whatever? What are you feeling right now? You have got those emotion words, but not everybody already has. So you have to listen to the way the client expressed the emotion and interpret it in the form of emotions.
Lizzie, so can I just quickly ask a question? Because obviously, as you are listening to your client, you might become aware of specific assumptions or limiting beliefs that they are holding. Would you then list that under the thoughts?
You can list it under a thought, yes, because it will be a thought. Assumption is normally a thought. It's something that arises from an event, though. And let's say I'm in Paul, and Karina doesn't know I'm in Paul, and we meet by accident at Mug and Bean, and she ignores me because she didn't think she will ever see me walking in Paul at Mug and Bean. I mean, I'm in Brandfort. It's just something that doesn't happen, and she ignores me, and I'm assuming that she doesn't like me. But she just, that looks like Lizette, but it can't be Lizette, for instance. But my thought was, I assume something that happened in an event. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So, yes, there's something that happened. So, let's say we'll use this. Karina did not see me. That's the action. But what was the assumption? She doesn't like me. Let's say like that. So there will be that underlying factor. And that's a thought that somebody think. They didn't say that. I didn't tell Karina you didn't like me. I thought it. Because she didn't even see me. Let's say okay, does that make sense? Right. Perfect. Good. So this is a very important tool and you need to practice it a lot. All right, next point, next one we're moving on to is the questioning. Now, I want you to really look at open questions, to ask open questions. Open questions are those that cannot be answered in a few words or yes or no. They encourage the client to speak and offer an opportunity for the counselor to gather information about the client and their concerns. Okay, so it's a place where you can get information about who the client is and what is their struggle. Okay, next we can move on. So typically open questions begin with what, why, how, or even could. Wat sal dit in Afrikaans wees? Hoekom? Ek is nie seker wat die Afrikaans nie.
Wat, waarom of hoekom? Ja.
Ja. En hoe? En kan. Maybe that will be the Afrikaans. Okay. So what brought you here today? That's a good way for your first session to start, a good question. And then why did you think that? That question right next to it is to understand the client's motives. How did you come to consider this? Could you tell me what brings you here today? Same phrasing, it's just a little bit different. How do or did you feel about? What were you thinking? What was it like for you? Tell me more about. Now, that tell me more about is something that struck you as curious. You want to know more about this subject. So ask the client what you would like to know more about. And then how is this affecting you? This is bringing it back to the client. The client needs to tell you, because most of the times clients will tell you a story about other people and they will not tell you how it's affecting them. This brings it to them, to makes it personal. Okay, thanks, Jack. We can move on. Okay, so you need to complete some information. how questions tend to invite the client to talk about their feelings. Okay, so how equals or is an invitation for the client to talk about their feelings. What questions lead to facts? When talks about timing. Now, that timing you're going to see is quite important when we speak about trauma in the next contact session, because this timing can also include events and information before a problem. Where questions goes about the place, it reveals the environment in which the event took place. And many counselors never ask the where question. They never explore the environment in which a problem story takes place. And this leads them to not understanding the real impact of the client situation. So that environmental factor is very important. Why will give you information regarding the reason or the cause of the event. Okay, so now you can see how you can actually use these questions to help you to open up the client's question, the client's problem story. Let's move to the next slide. Here is examples. How this enables them to talk about feelings and processes and the information, and it brings out timing that's included, preceded, and what followed it. In other words, what happened before and what happened after. The where goes to discussion about environment plus situations. Where were you when the car crashed? I was driving to the OK, or whatever the case might be. And then why is about reasons. But I want to highlight the following. Why questions, just go back for me one, please, Jack. Why questions can provoke feelings of defensiveness. Okay. And in clients, and they may encourage clients to feel as though they need to justify themselves in some way. I'm getting back to our empathy story. So how we phrase the why question is quite important, because we do not want clients to feel they need to defend them in your counseling room. Okay, we can move on. Right. Why do we ask this? To obtain information. You cannot help your client unless you've got information. To guide your client. To express an interest. Look at the fourth point. To maintain control of the conversation. To clarify when you don't understand. To encourage new thoughts or new processes, and to gain knowledge. Now, what's the difference between information and knowledge? Information is basically data. Knowledge is data that has been formulated by experience. Let's use it in that frame of mind. So to ask an open question will lead you to the next question. Thus, opening questions is one of those critical skills we need to actively learn. The next point is the orange problem analysis. We can move on. Thanks, Jack. Okay. Okay. So here we have a good tool. The tool can help you to understand the problem that the client has. I would suggest that you use this tool in the counseling room as your guide to ask questions. Now, I need an emotional problem that somebody can suggest for me. Please in the chat box, just as an example. Can anybody just give me a problem we can work with? And it can't be lockdown. Let's choose another problem. I'm still waiting. Doesn't have to be a huge problem. It can be okay.
Shame, Lizette. If no one has a problem or can think of something, I'm willing to
I think,
share.
are you willing to share, Karina? It doesn't have to be a
There's a very relevant one from Yolandi Stevenstar, paying for my son's studies.
Okay, let's just look at paying for my son's studies. Okay, son's studies and the financial support. Let's use that. So let's say the financial support for your son's studies. So now the first one we're going to look, here's an arrow. Can you see, Jack, can you just go and put your cursor over the black arrow for me? That first segment is going to describe your problem. So Yolandi is going to describe that she needs to find financial resources for something very important. Okay, so she's describing her problem. Then the next part, who is all involved? And let's say it can be grandmother, father, it can be a sibling that has to give up something to be able to pay the university's fees, whatever the case might be. The who is all the people that is involved. Also look at the other people that is involved. Let's say the university, the study center. Let's say, what else can we say that's involved? A client, the client's friends, a tutor. The who can be quite big. The who is almost anybody. Now, what are the different aspects of the problem? The what, the when, the how, the opening. Can you see the time questions, the when? Those are different aspects of the problem. And then, what did you do? And that is, I want you to notice that is in red, the client. What did the client do and what does the client say? Okay, what are the words that the client use? This is specifically to the client. So all those things goes in there. Then what was the client's stress reaction? Yolandi, can you tell us, are you fighting or fleeing or freezing? Just add in there for us. Just quickly, it doesn't really, there's not a right or wrong answer. What are you doing? Are you maybe just at this moment frozen? I don't know which way to turn. Or are you hiding your head in the sand? Or are you fighting it and baking cookies and I don't know, frozen? Thank you, Yolandi, for the honesty. Can you see? This is her stress reaction. That is what's happening. Now, let's get to all the people involved. What did they do and what are they saying? Maybe her son is saying, but if we can't pay this, I lose my dream. What is now that sentence doing to her, her emotional state? What are all the people involved? What is the husband saying? And so on. Now there's another question, and again, this goes back to the client. Have you had a similar problem in the past? So obviously, the similar problem in the past is not going to be how to pay for school fees. This is going to be, let's say I had to buy a house or I had to have a huge financial expense and I did not know. What did you do? That question there. Renal, we will see if we can give it an example of what you didn't do or say just now. This question here with the client, Jack, can you just put your cursor there by have you had a similar problem in the past? That question, right next to it, it will lead to leverage. Phase 1C. Because you're going to use how the client dealt with the problem of the past to be able to get to a preferred scenario. So that will help you to identify leverage. So you can see that even during your when you just have to listen to the problem of the client, there are ways that you can get to the leverage. Renal, example of what did others say? It's going to depend on who's the others. Maybe the husband is saying, and now I'm just, because I didn't know about this problem, so I'm just saying something now. Maybe the husband says he has to put his studies on hold and go and find a job until every finances is stabilized. Son is saying he needs to study full time. The girlfriend is saying, why study at all? You can stop studying. Grandma is saying, why doesn't he study part-time? So can you see that's an example of what other people have said, or even what they have did. Let's say somebody else, grandma, is saying, okay, knitting mittens in the winter, and everyone that I say goes into his study fund, whatever. So it's what the other people say. Renal, does that answer your question? So it will be what the other role players are contributing to the problem. And then we get to a very important aspect. How is this problem affecting your relationship with God, your relationship with self, and your relationship with others? I almost wish you guys can, I hope to see you guys in level 3B, because we are going to discuss the positions about our God's concept. We have struggles. Sometimes God becomes a judge, sometimes a bully, sometimes an answer, sometimes a person who sleeps on a pillow. Depending on your situation that you find yourself in. And we need to explore this in honesty. This is where the Christian masks come off and people tell you, it feels as though God's not hearing me. It feels as though God's not providing, maybe in this case. It feels as though I don't trust God, so there's something wrong with me in my relationship with my God. And I love him, but I just don't have enough faith, somebody has said to me, and so on. And then obviously, how is this affecting a relationship with a son, maybe a husband, or maybe the other siblings, if there are other siblings. So can you see how we can unpack this and use this as a analysis of a current problem scenario? And Yolandi, thank you so much for using a current problem, because this is the reason the client is coming to see you. The client's coming to see you because of this situation, not because of something that has happened in the past. There might be a past story that comes into this situation, but it doesn't mean this is the reason they are actually here. Counselors have got this horrible habit of immediately trying to find the fault in the person's parents or parenting styles of the grandparents or something. When this is a reality, sometimes people are burdened or are falling in current circumstances. This is the reality of a world that is not yet been perfected, that is being perfected. Okay, so those are, sorry, Karina?
No, but just think about if a client comes to see you about some of the challenges that lockdown has brought to the surface. You're not going to dig and dive in their past and the way that they grew up.
No. Not, you might lead to that when you understand the assumptions and things like that. But right now, this is my story was not finding yeast. I can't tell you how frustrated I was about. All I wanted, because this is the one thing that we do on Saturdays to make lockdown bearable. We have a fun food experience on a Saturday. We've had many different sort of stuff happening on a Saturday. And the Saturday we wanted to make pizza. We couldn't. So the whole thing of making lockdown good for me was taken away. So yes, that was my current scenario. Okay, so now, Jack, I think we're now in our phase where we're going to actually break for a discussion. So you guys are going to put on the hat of a therapist. And one person, and you're going to do 2 exercises. So you're going to have a bit longer time than normal. The first exercise that you're going to do is one of you must just share a current problem scenario for about 5 minutes. That's all you need to do. And I want you to use the empathy mapping tool to see if you can understand what the client said, what the client did, what the client thought, and how they felt. It's your tool too, empathy mapping. I want you to listen to any one of you, choose who's going to be your client. And remember, in whoever group Yolanda is, she was already a client. So somebody else has to be a client in her group. Okay. Just a short current problem that you have and just discuss it briefly. And then you're going to do the case study on page 48, right? And as a group, try to use any of the tools, but I would suggest, since it's a case study, that you apply the orange problem analysis to the case study and see if you can do it by making use of this case study and being able to segment the client's problem. Let me see the time. I think until about 12 o'clock, Jack. What do you think?
100%. Yeah, it gives us a lot of time for everybody to actually complete it.
Then they can begin.
Okay. Yes, I'm going to put you in your rooms. So this should be a bit smoother than last time. So let's quickly just. Does that?
Okay, voordat ons aangaan, wil ek gou-gou vir julle vra, as julle gou-gou vir my net op die chat boksie kan gesels, is daar enige vrae of onsekerhede wat julle dalk net vinnig met ons wou gesels het? Is julle happy? Kan ons aangaan? Enige iemand wat vrae gehad het? Dit was baie helpful, dankie Carmen. Ek gaan seker nou vir ons die dingetjies share mee, die share screen gee. Ja, dis reg, vra gou, Julianie.
Goed. Daai open questions.
Ja.
Ons is in die voorafwerk, die voorbereidende werk vir hierdie
Ja.
kontaksessie gesê, mens moenie 'n kliënt onderbreek nie, want dan onderbreek jy sy gedagtegang.
Ja.
So ek wag met al my open questions totdat sy basies haar storie klaar vertel het. Dan begin ek met vrae, is ek reg?
Okay. Leonie asked that one of the important things in the recorded lectures was that we're not allowed to interrupt a client unless while they are telling us their story. And then does she have to wait until the client is finished before she asks an open questions? Yes, Leonie, that's exactly how you're going to do it. You're going to listen to the client and write down. That's why you have a pen. Write down the question that you might want to ask regarding something or something that has struck your curiosity. What I normally do is I write a question mark with my pen next to a phrase that the client have given. So I use that question mark to allow myself something to want to go back and maybe to enlarge a question. This is quite important that we allow the client to finish the phrasing. And just at that point, we don't give the client words to use. We allow the client to express himself using their own language, because we might understand something, but they might not. Okay, so stage 1, we are still in stage 1 and we're moving forward. So what has happened is we have had our first session. Your story is basically session 1. Yes, Brenda also asked a question. I just want to give feedback to that because that's a very good question, Brenda. By the part of what did the client do or say, can we also ask what they did not do? Yes, you can also ask a question. That is something that you may be curious about. Let's say the cat was lost or something like that, and she never went looking for a cat. Why didn't you go looking for the cat? Whatever the case might be. So yes, that will allow you to understand the motive. Just remember to phrase it or have your tone of voice so that it's not an accusing question. You can say, that was very interesting. I wonder why you didn't ask your husband about that point, you know? So do use that. That is an important skill of listening, is to also listen for what the client have not said and to wonder about that. Excellent question. Thank you, Brenda. That's a very good question. Okay, so can you see our little map, stage 1 of what is going on? We have now finished with the story part, and that will be your first session with your client. Leonie, I hope I've answered your question, and I don't see any more other questions. Jack has answered Shantae. Yes, Shantae, and remember that we have discussed the stress reaction during level 1, so you can go revisit level 1, contact session 1's workshop about the stress reactions where we have covered that material. So good question as well. But normally in a certain stressor, the client will have a stress reaction during that specific phrase or that specific challenge. Okay, so we've provided a safe space for the speaker. They have been fully heard and they've been acknowledged. So now we're moving on to blind spots. Blind spots is about a space where people can hear and understand their story. So we're moving on to blind spots. That's our next point. Okay. So I want you guys to go, I'm sorry, Jack, this is, all the women will understand this picture. Just see the guy with the refrigerator. Please put up your smiley faces. There's smiley faces in your that you can react as well. If you, honey, where's the butter? Look at the butter in the fridge. Do you guys see that? Yeah, that is our blind spot.
It's usually the same guy can go hunting and he can spot the animal a kilometer away, but he can't find what he's looking for in front of him. So
That is actually a good point, Jack. That is a very good point because that is a blind spot. A blind spot is an inability to see what's right in front of you. And I just want you to note that this guy even wear glasses. Jack, I wonder if it's not a bit of a self-portrait there. I'm just saying. So.
I like
Okay, so now we hear the word empathetic reflections. Now that is when we give the story back to the client themselves. And we challenge the client to uncover their blind spots or the gaps in their perceptions and their assessments of a situation that they experience. Patterns, the impact of their behavior on the situation, and please highlight that one, their strengths, because every one of us actually has got strengths that is unique or opportunities that we sometimes just don't see. Right. So, Jack, will you remind me, I'm in work mode, so I'll forget that we maybe break for lunch about 12:30.
perfect.
Thanks. I forget about timing when because I'm enjoying myself, so I forget about timing. Okay, the next point is
me, so it's all right. My stomach will remind me. So
okay, so the next point is the type of blind spots that we're going to look at. So we can move to the next slide. So we're going to look at different types. There are more than, okay, but before we get there, I have a question. Okay, so everybody on the chat box, I need you to participate. So the question here is, what is a blind spot? So the question is, do you see yourself someone who saves water? So please raise your hands on your little hand if you say yes. Do you believe that you save water? Please give us the hands up sign in the chat box. Okay. Zelda, half a hand from Carmine. Okay, we've got only two. Renal saves water. Elaine says yes. Jack, don't you want to show? Can you screen share so that everybody can see where's their hands and thumbs up shine?
I could give it a try. Let's try. One second.
So that everybody can see that.
Boom. Let's do that. Let's go over here.
Because it's actually quite fun.
And yeah, let's do. I think everybody can see in the chat box. See if that can work. So we've got a few yes, half a hand, yes, 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 yes. And then we have
the reactions.
Marlene and Brenda in the WhatsApp group. So they're there as well.
But don't you want to go to the reactions for me? Because that's what I want them to use.
You want the reaction.
Reactions? Can you see?
So there's a thumbs
up.
So there we go. Yay.
Okay.
There we go.
So everybody, there we go. Nobody knew where the reactions was. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So everybody now can react. I'm happy. Okay. So, right. Here comes the question. Do you see yourself as someone who saves water? Please press your reaction buttons. That sounds like a... Jack is clapping his hands. So everybody is water saving. Okay. Right. So the question I'm going to rephrase the question right now. So instead of going through the water question that's on the slide there, I'm going to ask you a different question. Okay. So I want you to listen carefully to, do you see yourself as somebody that is law abiding? Please use your reactions. Yolandi is law abiding, Elaine, Marlene, Carmine. Oh, but worried about Marty. Jack says yes. Renal said yes. Okay. My next question. So everybody sees himself as law abiding. So my next question I have for you guys. During this time of lockdown, have you ever broken the law? You can just thumbs up. Okay. Me too. Jack too. Guys, this is our reality. This is a blind spot in the season that we have ourselves in. You see, we can go to the next slide, Jack. This is what a blind spot is. We believe that we are law-abiding, yet we are breaking the law. And I know we're going to justify, I understand that all. You don't have to justify right now. This is what a blind spot is. It's that you need to learn about your way of thinking. We all think that we maybe save water or that we are law-abiding, but are we really law-abiding all the time? To identify our personal blind spots, we need to become self-aware of the things in our lives and of things that we are not aware of. Let's just go and look at that little square that has been framed, the little frame there. Some people have high self-esteem. They know what they want and they know how to get it. Their lives are on track and they are truly happy until someone, normally external of them, identify a flaw in their personality, which is obvious to everyone but themselves. Highlight that for me. It's obvious to everyone but themselves. As counselors, you and I, our task is to find the client's blind spots, to identify their level of self-awareness and search for patterns and connections. The question about self-awareness, we did this in our level 1, and it's quite important. Do you know that most people are unaware of themselves? They do not know how they conduct themselves when they are in conversation, when they are in a shop. Have you ever noticed how rude people are when they're in their own cars? It is though they don't realize that there are other people around them. It is crazy. Yet, when you talk to them, they will be polite. But while they're in the car, they are rude. It's as though they are not aware that they are still the same person. So self-awareness is something that we need to develop intentionally. And our job is going to be to help our clients become more and more aware of themselves. Okay. Zelda has made a comment about speeding, Zelda, and law-abiding. Okay, let's move on to the next point. What are the type of blind spots? I have listed a couple here. There are more, but for what we're going to identify during Egan, we're going to look at the following 6. Knowledge blindness, belief blindness or assumptions. You can write assumption there as well. Emotional blindness, thought blindness or thought patterns is what we're going to look at. Number 5, spiritual blindness. And then number 6, experience blindness. We're going to look at each one of them individually, but I just want to talk about the experience blindness. We tend to internalize what we experience by using our past.
And that is what causes the blindness. So I interpret my current situation with stuff that I've learned from my past. And that colors in how I experience certain situations. So that is when we sometimes we don't see what we're really experiencing unless there is somebody that can actually show you what it is. Jesus was very good at teaching people, especially when he challenged the Pharisees with some of his stories that he used to challenge their experiences. Also, of course, the spiritual blindness and so forth. Warren Buffett said the following: what the human being is best at is interpreting all new information, listen to this, so that their prior conclusions remain intact. I'm going to read this again. What human beings is best at doing is interpreting all new information so that their prior conclusions remain intact. This is a critical point in the counseling room, because clients then interpret new experiences but remain, I want to say, they keep the same belief system. They do not change it. And this is the reason clients do not like change, because they have to reframe what they believed about themselves, sometimes about God, and definitely about other people. One of the techniques, we can move forward, Jax. One of the techniques to identify blind spots, and we are not going to spend time on this blind spot, is using the Johari window. You will see that there's a note. It is in your one of your prescribed books, The Student's A to Z of Psychology, and it comes from the chapter, The Dynamic Self. You guys can go and access it there. But the Johari window is a technique that helps people to better understand the relationships with themselves and with others. So there's the open self. That's information about you that are known to you and others. For instance, let me ask this question. What do you guys know about... Oh, Karina, did you want to say something quickly before I ask the question?
Sorry, yeah, there's just a question in the chat from Elaine. And she said, I want to ask something. I think there's a fine line between self-awareness and being behept with yourself. Can you explain how we can prevent not become too self-behept?
Okay, but I think that I will do that. I think self-awareness is being aware of how you, the definition of self-awareness is actually becoming aware of how you impact others. That's self-awareness. And therefore, it's not about the perception that it's about my needs exclusively. It's how your conduct impact others. Karina?
I wanted to say you have the internal self-awareness and the external self-awareness. Internal self-awareness is what's happening for me, what is triggering me, how do I respond, and we must always remember self-awareness is one of the fundamental building blocks for maturity and emotional intelligence, because you've got self-awareness, you've got self-management, and then you've got social awareness and social management. So it always works together. So the better you know yourself, the better you can manage yourself, and you will always also be aware then of how other people experience you within a certain context, and you can socially manage that better. So I think that is, for me, a big difference of just being emotionally mature and self-aware versus
selfish, narcissistic.
Narcissistic, yeah.
Okay, so very good question. Many people do focus on themselves, but this is not what we are talking about. Self-awareness is how you understand who you are, and that information is known about you by both you and others. Okay, so then we get to the hidden self. That's information about you that you know, but others don't know. So we don't know everything about everybody. There are some things that is kept back for whatever reason there might be. Then there is the unknown self. That's information about you that nobody knows about. You don't know about it, and others don't know about you. And then there's the blind spot. Information about you that you don't know, but others do know. Karina?
And I think that is actually where, when we are really maturing in our self-awareness, this is actually that external self-awareness is the blind spot. It's, you know, the impact that you have on others as well. So these blind spots become increasingly more clear, and you can start managing it. So that window of actually shifting.
Okay. And if you go and read in the A to Z of psychology, it will open up how to use this far better. Or you will actually, it's one of the skills that you need to know. But just to understand, a blind spot is something, it's information about you that you don't know, but others do know, and they help you to see it. So that is what we talk about in Egan when we talk about the blind spot. Okay, it's a good conversation that we are busy with. So what tools can we use to identify blind spots? So let us go look at the tools. And I think we're going to just have an overview of the tools, and then we're going to break for lunch, because I think it's about 8 minutes. There is a questionnaire to evaluate your self-awareness. There are specific questions that you can ask that will identify blind spots. Now, remember we spoke about the lifeline that you can use, and we're going to look at a lifeline. Then there is a genogram. We're going to look at that quickly, and the information you will get in that. And then we've added something called the Wheel of Life. It will remind you of the time questionnaire that we did in level 2. Then we are going to look at negative thought patterns, and we're going to spend some time this afternoon with spiritual blind spots, which I believe is quite important. Lots of people, every one of us actually at some time experience something that's called a spiritual blind spot. Okay, so I think with that we're going to break for lunch. Jack, if you can maybe just pray for us for lunch, and then I wonder if we should not, I don't know how long do you want to break for lunch for?
Is it? No, I think let's do an hour. Then everybody can then we can have a good rest. Sitting in front of a screen is a bit tiring. So let's say everybody should be back at 1:30. And yeah, you can go out of the room. It's fine. You just use the same link as you used previously. So yeah, let's just quickly pray for lunch, and then we'll see you in an hour. So Father, thank you that we can just give this afternoon to you. We pray that you will just bless this meal into our body, and that we will be refreshed in the evening in the afternoon to come. We thank you for that, Lord, in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Sien julle dan? Hoe laat? 1:30?
1:30.
Okay.
Bye.